Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2021 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, the Executive Director, in conversation with Lissi Simpson, the director and filmmaker behind the short film Mexed, which you can see as a part of the Free for All Shorts program, which begins streaming September 27th and ends October 3rd. We will also have a small limited amount of in-person screenings, and those begin September 21st and run through the 26th. All the information regarding our programs and upcoming events can be found on the Global Peace Film Festival website, peacefilmfest.org. And now let's welcome Lissi to the conversation. Thank you so much for your film and for taking time today.
Thank you for inviting me to spend time.
Hi, Lissi. So it's good to see you. And let's start out. Tell us about the film.
So the film is about the experiences of being a biracial woman through using my hair as like a conversation piece. It's in 3 acts and it goes on a journey, like a hero's journey of just like starting where you don't really you question, you're not questioning, you kind of have all of these views that have been placed upon you by society, and how you're expected to look and feel, and how you're expected to come across to people. And then the second act is when you start to question that and why you've allowed people to kind of get in your head about certain words and ways of being. And the third act is when you finally have that moment of like euphoria and you realize that one, you're just this small part of something so much bigger, and also that you have to love every single part of you, like because it is a part of you and it's not something that should be hidden away. And it looks a lot specifically at the word frizzy, and how the word frizzy has a lot of at least like, you know, in like biracial circles, it has a lot of like negative stigma. So I was part of a mixed girl sisterhood, and we used to just talk about our hair and like curl, like we'd get out like curl charts and like products that were working for each other. And I had a conversation with them about what the word frizzy means to them. And I thought it was really interesting how a lot of what they were saying was that they had hated the word for a really long part of their life, and then they had realized that what they actually hated was the way that people were trying to use that as something that could be turned against them, rather than just being something that is a part of them. And like, yeah, we have curls, and you know, our curls turn to kinks and all these other different types of curls, but we also have frizzy hair. And you know, that's not something to hide away or to try and like relax back into a more acceptable version of curly hair. So it's a lot about just being like not only biracial but being a woman, and just growing up in this like modern world where there's so much put on you to come across a certain way.
Well, Lissi, you mentioned that you structured the film after the hero's journey. So could I draw you out just a little bit more about the wonderful job that you had done in the film of taking something that really is a product of your own personal lived experience and creating something that's more universal for people to connect with?
Yeah. So for me, like I didn't like the word frizzy until, and I was trying to make the film and I still didn't like the word frizzy. And um, it took that conversation that I had with the sisterhood for me to have that breakthrough moment of, this is why I'm struggling to make the film, because I haven't learnt to love the word frizzy. And hearing other people talking about their experiences and just trying to like collect it up, because we like mixed race is the fastest growing yet least represented minority group. And it means that we're all just being born into these really isolating lives. And that's not to say that they're bad lives, but it just means that we don't have like the the history that that other groups can fall back onto. And so I think, like, for me, a big part of it was I didn't want it to be just my story. And it is a very personal story, but like I wrote it and it pulls on my own life experiences, but I still wanted it to have enough of a ambiguity, I guess, through like covering topics that are more universal to biracial women, that other people could listen to it and start to see themselves in similar situations. That was really important to me. And then another thing was obviously with the dancing side of it, like the dancer Chantel, she's biracial as well, and I am not a dancer. I don't do choreography. I don't want to tell people how to do stuff that they're good at. So I just said to her, like, take the music, take the dance, and like just kind of create something. This is kind of what I had in mind, but just like don't feel like you have like these strict rules. So the dance that she came up with was very much like taking my words and her like kind of experiences through a physical like capacity and then blending them. And I think that did help in terms of like just it feeling like it was expanding beyond my own story into a more collective story. And again with Jodie, she's not biracial, but she does have curly hair, and like a big part, so she was the composer of the music, and a big part of the music for me was trying to like make it evoke sounds that kind of like brought you back to certain hair techniques, but that I didn't want it to be too obvious. I wanted it to be more subtle. And so she was doing things like she would record herself cutting her hair, burning her hair, like spraying hairspray through her hair. She was doing all these like really crazy things just to kind of like embed it. And so like it was just, for me, it was a lot about trying to like remove it from myself and just like see how far it can go when I let other people in. And I think that definitely did help, because I have had some really good responses. One girl interviewed me for a magazine a while ago, and she said that she'd cried because she was also biracial, and she just related to it so much that it had that kind of effect on her. And it sounds really evil, but that's kind of like the moment when you're like, oh, it works. So
Well, it also shows the importance of having, I don't want to say role models to put that kind of weight, but at least just the ability to see people who look and have similar experiences.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when I was coming up with the idea, like a lot of it was kind of just based within like real world events. So there was like a lot of like practical sides to it. With COVID and everything, I knew that I couldn't do like a more traditional drama as easily. Like I wasn't going to get that same type of emotion, because this was when it just started, and everything was shutting down and no one knew what to do about anything. And like I was never going to be able to get two actors together and get them to do like that kind of intimate scene. And I knew that it very much had to be about how much you can do with like one body, one voice. And then also like George Floyd had died, and that had a really massive like ripple effect in how like everyone was talking worldwide. It wasn't just America, you know, there was a lot of conversations happening here, and it did spark a lot of like, for me, it sparked a lot of me asking myself like, who am I, and like how, like what is my identity when looking at my ethnicity, because I often see myself as just a person, and I think people should just see themselves as people. But I think you do have to consider like the role that certain parts of you have. So if you're a woman to a man, or Black, Asian, white, whatever you are, you know, all these things kind of come together and have influenced you in some way. And being a mixed race person is kind of, it's a lot to kind of process, because you've got two groups, you know, white people and Black people were like clashing with each other. And like here in the UK, we had a lot of responses to the murder of George Floyd, where people were throwing statues of colonialists into rivers. In Bristol, there was a big one. And it was sparking a lot of arguments online and in person, and there was just a lot going on, and you think like everyone's fighting, and I'm kind of like here, and I'm not fitting in with the white people or the black people because I'm a different group, but I'm also someone who is made of both groups. It's this really crazy thing to try and get your head around, and it sparks a lot of internal questioning that then came out through the script, I think.
Yeah, and you know, the discussion you were just having reminds me of how Nina and I approach the idea of peace, and how we approach the idea of programming this film festival. That peace isn't necessarily the absence of difference or conflict, but it is, you know, the way in which we approach that difference and that conflict, and how we process it in hopefully more positive, healthy, productive ways.
Yeah.
And acknowledging, you know, the aspects of our differences that, you know, still approaching it with dignity and respect. And so, you know, that was one of the reasons why I was, you know, drawn to your film, that you were able to communicate that sense of conflict within your own personhood. And it was a really interesting way that you approached that.
Yeah, and I think like I've always thought that just like being able to say that I have a white mum and a black dad has been like a blessing, because like although, you know, these are you know, it's two groups that historically have been clashing with each other for hundreds of years, like to be able to say that I'm like a product of both is kind of like I'm saying like I'm like the unity between people, which I always think is just like a really nice way of like seeing things if you are a biracial person, just to like see the fact that you are like that, those spark moments when, like, you know, there's just been like a love that has created you in some kind of way. And I've always, yeah, I don't know, I feel like I've gone on a bit of a spiritual journey over the last couple of years, but I do think that being able to see the ramifications of your identity, as in the things that you like benefit from and the things that you have lost because of it, as well as being able to see the positives as well. I think that's really important. And I think that a lot of people always talk about you know, like the trauma that you get when you're of a minority group, no matter what the group, like LGBT plus or like any group that you can think of. It's always kind of like let's talk about, you know, the negative sides, the things that we need to change. But I think sometimes it's really just good to be able to just show, to normalize the positivity, and to just show, like, you know, there can be hope. There can be hope.
And
Yeah.
that's also something we try to do with the festival. We look for those positive and inspirational messages and things that people can take away and do in their own lives or share in their own lives. So for people who watch the film and for people seeing this conversation, what can they do to support your work?
I mean, to support my work, I think just to have like conversations, to have just to just normalize conversations that you feel are uncomfortable, but that you can learn from, I think is probably the most important thing. You know, if you know someone who is biracial and they might benefit from seeing my film, then to definitely show them my film and to like let them feel like there is kind of like a place for them and there are people that understand them. Because as I said before, like, you know, when you're a biracial person, your parents aren't biracial, and your kids will be biracial, but they'll be like a different kind, and you're really just one of a kind, and that can have a massive effect on you. But at the same time, there's so many other people out there who feel the exact same way, and when you get everyone together, you can start to feel like you've got a bit of a different family, like a family that understands like the complications of, for example, like my mum never knew what to do with my hair when I was growing up, and that was probably like the worst time for me, because she'd chase me around the coffee table with like a comb, and it would just be this horrible horrible incident. But you know, you can kind of bond with people and share and feel like there's like a community that is there for you, and I think that's really important, is just to share that message of just like just being there for each other, and that it you know, there is always someone else who is going to get it. Even the like weird little things that you think are like deeply personal, there's someone who is going to get it.
And finally, what's next for you?
What's next for me? I mean, so I've got a couple ideas for the next few films that I want to make. I really want to make something with my grandma as a character, because she's just this incredible woman. And I've got a couple of ideas about stories around like mental health and stuff like that, and just trying to like keep normalizing topics that people find a little bit difficult. But I recently did an event in Manchester in the UK called Represent Me, and that was like a showcase of like 5 local filmmakers who were all either LGBT or Black or biracial, and it was just films that weren't necessarily about those topics, but kind of like showcased the capacity and the like meaningful kind of films, or the funny films that you can make from filmmakers from those groups and with casts that are from those groups. And that was really interesting to me. So I'm penciled to do a few more talks, but yeah, I'm looking at a lot of scripts as well. I've been script editing for a few people, so I'm kind of sticking with development and seeing how I can kind of make inclusion a bit more of a well-trodden path.
Oh, that's wonderful, Lissi. And now that you are part of the Global Peace Film Festival family of filmmakers, we will definitely look for updates from you and share them with our loyal followers through our own social media channels. So we will definitely check in with you regarding those upcoming projects.
Please do.
And thank you again for taking the time to talk with us. And for anyone who has watched this interview and would like to learn more information, please go to the website listed for Lissi, lissisimpson.co.uk. And also, if you want to see the film, please remember it will be a part of our Free for All Shorts program, which begins streaming September 27th and ends October the 3rd. All the information regarding Mexed and all of our other programming can be found at the Global Peace Film Festival website, peacefilmfest.org. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next Glow.